Hello guys, it's Anders. So today we're going to have a look at the Waves Reel ADT, the artificial double tracker. I'm going to show you it on a track that I made. It's the Lessons Learned track from the Lessons Learned album. I'm just going to show you a couple of things you can do with it. So ideally it was for double tracking or fake double tracking vocals, but you can use it on a lot of other things. Became quite famous for using it on guitar tracks and things on the Beatles albums. And I'm just going to show you some tricks because it's just a lovely effect that you can make use of when you use it on things like reverbs and in a couple of ways you wouldn't necessarily think of. So let's get into that. Alrighty, so here we are in Logic and this is my mix project for this track. Pretty busy track, lots of plugins going on, lots of processing, and we're going to add some more to that. So if you haven't heard this track before, I'm just going to play the first 4 bars here just so you can get an idea of what's going on before we start looking at some of the things. Alright, so we're just plodding along there, lots of instrumentation, some nice vocals going on. I've chosen this particular bit because it's, believe it or not, kind of stripped down for the rest of it, and we can hear the effects and things that are going on really well. So loaded up here on the right hand side, I've got the Reel ADT plugin. And well, what is it? So essentially what it's doing is it's taking your audio in, like a mono track or a stereo track, and it's gonna slightly alter the speed, alter the panning, alter the drive, potentially alter the phase of the left and right channels. And it's gonna do that to create the perception of width and difference between the two. So double tracking gives quite a strange thickening effect. It's almost impossible for us to recreate exactly the same tonality and note twice, vocal wise. And so when we re-record a session or re-record a vocal and layer it, it sort of thickens and adds to it instead of it phase cancelling and causing all sorts of problems. That just happens naturally with our voice. The tiniest little nuances affect so much because it's such a complex instrument when you speak and sing. The aim of this was to artificially recreate that. Save time, so record a single track and use your ADT to do that. However, it didn't really work that well. It gave a really sort of artificial sound because it just is unable to create so many subtle nuances. What happened instead though is it created a fantastic stereo widening effect. So having it left and right, similar to how you would create something like a Hass delay, your ears perceive this to be a much wider sound coming from a much wider source because there's these slight variances in time and speed changes, and it can create a great effect when listening to something in stereo. So just for an example here, we've got it on the main vocal. If we enable it, that's the one that I've got loaded up just here, and you'll see now that this vary speed here starts moving, and that's going to alter continuously throughout the track, and it's varying the speed of audio passing through it. So what we could do is solo the vocal here, and we're going to hear that it's really quite wide and loud. This isn't necessarily how I use it, but it's a good example for you to get an idea and concept of what's going on. Now if I disable it and we listen to that first passage again, yeah, it's a lot more central. What I'll do now is I'll play it and I'll enable the ADT and you'll hear the jump. I just wanna be where you are. Yeah, so it really sort of spreads the sound away. It's more of like a change of feeling than a change of sound. And it can just be a useful mix tool. So if for example, we had some backing vocals here and we wanted to have those spread away and out of the center, we can take the center mono mix down and use this to spread it out like that. So what I've done as an example is created a bus, and that audio track that we just listened to feeds into that bus. We can see it's just here. Go into bus 14, and then I've created the channel here called ADT, and we're going to enable that one. Then we'll bring it up and just cover up our other one here. Get rid of you. Lovely, don't we look beautiful? Right, so I've got the bus disabled. I'll then enable the bus. Now this is going to be a much subtler effect, but then I'm going to bring the whole mix in, and I want you to hear the difference it has when introducing it just on the bus and having some more control over it. So without, with, and that can really help us create that thickening up of the vocals. I'm going to introduce all the instruments now, play it, and then I'm going to bring that bus in. And what we'll do is we'll just loop the first couple of bars here so we can just go over it nicely without wasting a whole world of time, because your time is precious. So let's do that just there. So we will have the bus off and then we'll introduce it, and hopefully you'll hear that change occur. So you hear that like thickening that's occurred, it just beefs that vocal up a little bit. Let's go to a part where it's a bit more vocal, and let's use the word wordy. Now without. Now back in. Cool to the beans, right? So it's just thickening it up, and I'm not having to get double takes made or do anything else. And if you want to hear just what the bus is doing, it's going to be effectively the same as what we heard before, but a few decibels quieter. Now we can make this a bit more extreme, take it one step further. If we bump you just up there, let's go into my classics here. If we grab, HEQ is going to do the job for us. And we'll just grab you here, pop you next to that. We are going to change it from stereo to mid-side. Make sure we got this mid-channel selected. And the two sliders here on the left go to M and S. We're going to take the mids out. So now we've only got the left and right, the differences occurring. Now that sounds really freaky, right? However, if we now bring the actual vocal in, we can probably bump this up quite a bit more doing this. Yeah, that gives us a really cool effect. We've just got the stereo effect happening on the ADT channel because we've pulled out everything that's mono. We're just getting the difference created by the left and right. And that's just a nice little trick for you guys to do. I apply that a lot to bass lines, believe it or not. So I'll have a copy of my bass, I'll take out all the mids and then get a load of sides going. So it's always got some mono compatibility, but we've got loads of crazy stereo stuff going on, so it feels huge. So the other thing that I will quite often do is take it onto a reverb as well. So we've got some really nice cello recordings in here. It's going to be this bit here. No, it's going to be this bit here. Now this is better to hear within the mix. So we'll get rid of you guys again. And we've got string hall here. I've got a space designer with a obviously nice reverb on it. There's an EQ doing just a big chunk of low end cutoff because it's a cello and it was adding loads of extra weighty wobbliness that I did not want. So we sound like this. This is going to be the cello section. We'll mute the vocal because they sit in sort of a similar space. Now we're going to do that with the Reel ADT on it as well. Now it's just on the reverb, remember, so it's just on this sound. But like, listen to the difference it makes when I bring it in and out. So I'll start with it in and I'll take it away. Yeah, so it's just adding like that little bit of width and detail going on. It brings a reverb which is already stereo, giving us some room and movement, just brings it out a little bit more, pushes it a little bit more to the side and gives us that detail in there. Just a subtle little trick that you can try out. Now, I suppose we should probably go over what this thing does and how it works. So, beautiful source. So, what's effectively happening is it's coming in and it's being panned hard left and right. You've got two channels, your left channel and your right channel. Obviously it's going to be a stereo plugin for what it's popping out to us. You can choose where those sit. So for example, I could go hard right on both. That's not what we want. We can have them center, which is okay. And that gives us our like artificial doubling effect. Right, but where the magic happens on this sort of thing is by doing the hard left and hard right. Now it's an analog emulation and driving it gives quite a distinct change, but what you can also make use of is driving these ever so slightly differently. So if we drive the right a little bit harder than the left, we might have to gain stage it down a little bit. To end this way, 'cause I never meant. It was a bit much there, but it gives just another little difference. It widens it up a bit. It is quite useful as well if you're going to have them both in the center to have them driven slightly differently. 'Cause I never meant for it to end this way. Anyway, that is for you to have a play around with. Now, what's going on here with the vary speed, you can adjust the movement time and how far it's going to move each side at what sort of speeds. I tend to go quite subtle, like really small amounts either side, and sometimes drop the range down to really tiny amounts as well. It completely depends on like your piece of audio and what's working with it. But you can do the range change so it moves much more drastic amounts here. Notice it doesn't move much when you've got it around here, but it takes the overall values to like minus and plus 20 milliseconds, which you'll see flies out a lot more. Whereas if we bring it right down, which I'll normally have it like around 2 or 3 to be honest, it's going to be moving a lot less, and then the maximum is actually only at 3. So it's just it's a lot subtler to do it that way. If you want to go for extreme effects, go for extreme effects, just how I work with it. Cool, so that's pretty much it. There's lots more info on the Waves website. I will throw a link down below. Just give it a try. I don't know another plugin that does this job as well as this does, but if you do, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to check that out. There are lots of stereo plugins out there. I just don't know anything that takes it to this level and lets you do this with it. If you like the little trick with using the HEQ and taking the mono out, throw me a like on the video for that. I really appreciate it. And I will catch you guys on the next one. See you soon.